Hey guys, we are back with the course. Loren Mulraine here with you. And we spent the first several videos of the course talking about an overview of copyright law. And hopefully you've seen all those. If not, you can go back and take a look at those. It'll give you a good overview of copyright and understanding of how copyright law works and how you can make sure that you stay on the right side of copyright law. Now, this next series of videos is going into the deals, entertainment deals, and specifically, we're going to start off talking about record deals. Now, record deals are one of the most important contractual relationships in the music industry. And record contracts can be very, very complex. Sometimes they're only 10 or 20 pages with smaller companies perhaps, but some of the major deals can go upwards of 50, 60, 80, even 100 pages in length. And so you could imagine all the number of things that are covered in a typical record deal. Most people don't have a great grasp and understanding of what those things are. So my goal is that through this series, you'll be able to see what the key elements are of record deals, how you negotiate certain terms. Obviously, I'm not negotiating deals for you. I'm just pointing out the elements that are in record deals. Because there's so many of them, so many clauses that we're going to look at. These videos are going to be pretty short because I'm going to really limit the discussion to just one particular thing in each video. And this first one, part one for record deals, is talking about the term, record deal terms. And when we hear the word term in the contractual sense, we think of how long the deal is going to last. And so whereas with certain deals, in many situations, the deal will be measured by a period of time, a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. You hear about this all the time if you're familiar with sports deals, where an athlete might sign a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract with their team. Well, in the music business, it's not typically done that way. Typically, with the music business, the term for a contract is defined by a number of masters or a number of records. And usually, in a traditional sense, those deals were for albums or album cycles. So a deal might be for an album or 10 masters or 12 masters, however it might be defined. And then there will be a series of options that come behind that, where the record label has the option to renew the contract for an additional album. Now, you notice I said that the record company has the option to renew, and that is exactly how it normally is. It's what we call a unilateral option, which means it's a one-sided option, and that one side is the record label. So the record label gets a chance to decide whether or not they want to renew a contract, or exercise an option is the term that we would use. So because of that, because of the fact that it is a unilateral option and that one side is the record label, you might expect that an artist and a record label might have different goals with regard to how long the term of a deal is. Since the artist typically does not have the chance to say yay or nay to exercising an option, the artist will typically want the option numbers to be relatively low, whereas a record label will typically want to have a higher number of options. So the definition in a typical contract that a major label sends out for a baby band, a new act, might say one recording period plus 7 consecutive options. And of course, from the standpoint of the artist, you'd want to chop that 7 down. But depending on the circumstances, depending on the parties, what their goals are, will determine what you're looking for there with regard to options. One of the other things that's happening now in the modern music industry is quite often you're seeing deals done for singles. So instead of it just being defined by albums and album options, it might be defined by a certain number of singles over a certain period of time. This is increasingly popular in the hip hop world and in indie deals, A lot of indie deals will be for singles. Now, regardless of whether it's for singles or for albums, the artist will be required to deliver. Delivery is a requirement of every deal, where the artist is required to deliver the master recordings to the record label. And that delivery must be deemed to be commercially and technically acceptable. In other words, the record company, once they get that delivery from the artist, will decide whether or not this master or these masters are commercially viable and whether or not they are of the technical specifications that are necessary to promote and release music. Once they have determined that the recording, the delivery satisfies commercial and technical acceptability, then the record label at that point is on the clock with regard to exercising the next option. So sometimes they'll have 12 months after delivery or 12 months after release or 18 months after delivery of the previous record to exercise an option for the next recording. So you should beware, if you're getting into a deal, what the parameters say with regard to exercising options, and make sure that you govern yourself accordingly. Now, as I go through this particular part of the series where we're dealing with these record deals, I'll have a little piece near the end of each video where I say, here's what you should be looking out for if you're starting an indie label. Here's what you should be looking out for if you're an artist who's looking to sign. So if you're starting an indie label, what you should consider, things you should keep in mind with regard to the term. I would say to be creative and flexible in how you structure the deals, right? One of the advantages of being an indie is you have the ability to be nimble, where a major label may not be as nimble. Might take them years to kind of change the structure of deals, where you can change, anytime you want as an indie label. So be flexible and be creative in how you structure the deals. Also, consider whether it might be more advantageous to you in your situation to do deals for singles rather than for albums. Keep that in mind as a possibility. And perhaps you should trigger the transition if you do a singles-based deal. Consider having a provision that transitions it to an album-based deal based on certain success plateaus that the artist might reach with the singles. Now, what if you're an artist? Try to seek an indie deal that's most flexible regarding the term. For example, shorter terms, maybe some specific success plateaus that trigger the options. You're not going to, you typically won't get that with a major label deal, but with an indie deal or a more flexible deal, you might be able to get that sort of thing in the deal. You may even be able to have a situation where the options are mutually exercised, where both parties have to decide to move to record number 2 or record number 3. And then also, of course, not every artist will sign with an indie. If you're signing with a major label, make sure that you're comfortable with how the term is structured. Make sure that you have strong legal counsel who is advising you and negotiating and making sure that you understand the terms. And also, of course, making sure that you are comfortable with the label itself. The deal is not always defined as being better because there's more money. There's more to it than the money that's being offered in the deal. You've got to be comfortable with the terms. Every artist has something that's different to them. Make sure that those things are protected by your counsel as you are moving into this phase of signing a record deal. So that's it for this episode, part 1 of Record Deals, looking at the term of deals. Thank you for tuning in again to the course. We hope that you will subscribe, let other people know about this, share it so we can get the word out. And I look forward to seeing you next time on the course.